See, this isn't the problem, and this isn't going to be just limited to drinking, but this is going to be in general. The way how to be set free, I guess, from addictions and idolization and things like that. The problem itself, the root of not just with drinking, but just with any other issue. Like if some, like for me, for example, outside of covenant, I was idolizing men. Now, why was I doing that? Why? There's a root to everything, right? So the reason why I was doing that was because of my own bio dad when he was not around and things like that. And there was a lot of stuff that came with it. And there was a lot of things that happened over the years that caused me to start idolizing men because I wasn't getting that certain attention that I wanted from my bio dad, right? So then I was like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm just saying this is an example. But it wasn't just like, oh, idolize men, boom, wrong. Okay, yes, it's wrong, but it's also like, what's the actual underlying issue that's causing someone to even have this struggle in the first place? It's just like with if someone gets addicted to alcohol, or if they're getting blackout drunk and all these things, or if they're fornicating while they're drinking because they're under the influence sort of thing instead of under the influence of the spirit. That's the root. You got to go to the root, because otherwise if you just say to people, oh, it's wrong to have a few drinks sort of thing, they're not going to understand what you're talking about, because some people, even if they have a few drinks, they can handle it. It's not the same for everyone. Everybody can handle, some people can handle a lot more than others, right? But it's not the same for everyone. So you can't go off like, oh, just a few drinks, because what's a few drinks? Because in some people's eyes, a few drinks might be like five drinks or something like that, right? And they may not feel anything even just with having 5 drinks, because some people genuinely, you know what I mean? So you can't say like, oh, a few drinks. That's not the issue. The issue is if there's sin, there's leaven inside the heart that needs to come out. Or again, if there's something that's unhealed, like if they have unhealed trauma or triggers and things like that, that's the problem. And the answer on how to be set free is if someone gets in covenant, if someone circumcises their heart to follow God and keep his commandments, submit to God, and the demons flee. What does it mean to submit to him, to obey him? If you love him, right, you're going to keep the commandments, the 10 commandments, and by the finger of God, which is an idiom for the 10 commandments, the demons are, or devils, however it's worded in Luke 11:20, right, they are cast out. That's the way how anyone who's having some sort of addiction, idolization, sin issue, and things like that can be set free. That's the way how. So that's the answer to the problem. This is not what you're saying right here is hard. It's like only partially a part of the problem, but even then, who are the people who are going too far? It's the ones who are outside of covenant. Because if I will say this for me personally, outside of covenant, I didn't have self-control, especially with certain, like, but there were certain things like praise Yah, he was convicting me and stuff like that, but I also wasn't taught what his conviction was. Like I was like, I'm literally saying this like how ignorant I was to this, because I remember when I was in a talk, and I give this example because I feel like it's like a good example in the sense of how ignorant I was to understanding what his grace, which is conviction, really does. I was in a toxic relationship. My ex cheated on me. I was cheating on him. And I remember I literally was thinking to myself, how can he cheat without feeling guilty? Like I would feel so guilty. But the only thing that really got me to stop was once I actually started turning to God and started following his ways and learning what is pleasing in his sight. So the issue was me, okay, I was outside of covenant, I was filled with sin. That's the issue, that's the root. And also because of my upbringing, because if there was issues, inside the heart. And then eventually I was letting my heart be hardened because, it's not fun to be cheated on and things like that. But I was also just like, I was forgiving him because I was also understanding of certain things that he was going through at that time and things like that. But I kept taking him back. And then the more I was taking them back, the more the sadness, the hurt started turning into anger. And then eventually the anger was jealousy, envy, all these things inside, where then I had a snapping point basically, and I turned Jezebel, and then I started doing that stuff too. But then I felt the conviction though, because I was like, shoot, like how can he do this, right, without feeling conviction? But again, so that's the problem. That was the issue. That was what led up to the issue even becoming the problem that it did, me cheating. And then the solution was when God changed me, when he was convicting me, working inside me, and he started giving me a forgiving heart again and healing me from things that, like, even now, I would say this past year was like probably one of the years where I've been like the most healed from things, especially in regards to men, because I did have an issue with men growing up, not just because of him, but because my bio dad. And if you're someone who knows me, I'm not talking about Antonio. He is my spiritual dad who adopted me. But I'm talking about my bio dad. I had issues with my bio dad and things like that. And just in general, the men in my life were like, I don't want to say like terrible men, but I didn't have the best experience with men. But is it because all men are bad sort of thing? No, it's because we want to know the problem is because these men weren't in covenant. The issue isn't with men themselves, but if they're not in covenant, just like if a woman's not in covenant, it's not going to be good. So again, look at the problem, right? But go to the root of the problem, and then again, find the solution. God, Yeshua, the Bible, turning to their ways, walking in their ways, walking like Yeshua did, and then going out and teaching other people to do so. Because if you walk in the Spirit, you won't gratify the desires of the flesh. So that's the answer to this. So if somebody wants to be able to have a few drinks without going too far, if they just get in covenant, start keeping his commandments, doing what's pleasing in God's sight, eventually, if they have a genuine love for God, right? Like if you, as Yeshua said, if you love me, keep my commandments, John 14:15 through to 17, then he would pray to the Father to send you the Spirit of truth to be with you forever. So that's the solution. You get sent the Spirit of truth. His Spirit he won't let you go too far. He will give you that self-control you were once lacking. Those who lack self-control are more times than not those in the world. And again, there might be some people who no matter what, they just won't be able to have alcohol ever again, even if they're in covenant, okay? I'm not talking about those people because that's not the same for everyone. If I want to have a drink or a few drinks, I'm able to. Why? Because he's given me that self-control. I'm able to do it now, and I'm even now, honestly, I was starting to drink for a time, but now I'm just like, it's just like one of those things, like, I don't know, it's almost like Ecclesiastes in my head, like vanity. Like, I don't know, there was a point where I was going through like everything's like vanity sort of thing, but it's not, but if I wanted to have a drink, which I know I can, and sometimes I probably still will have a drink or a few drinks, I'm able to. It's not a sin, because guess what? That's not the sin or problem in itself. The root to these issues is the heart. That's the heart. So what's in someone's heart that keeps them from drinking?